So what happens when us women are steeped into comparison, competition, and judgment? Number one, it lowers our immune system. This is why I convince women, stop judging and comparing, because all that negative thought lowers your immune system. Number two, we actually create an unnecessary anxiety. Because what happens when we're competing, comparing, we're looking at everyone else. And it causes us to worry. And anxiety is just excessive worry, because we start to then wonder, I wonder what they think of us. And so we develop this habit of constantly wondering what people think of us, because we're constantly wondering, we're constantly talking about what people and what people are doing. We're judging. And so it becomes sort of this vicious cycle where our mind gets in this mental gymnastics, because we're not only judging other women, we're judging ourselves. And there's this inner conflict. And honestly, ladies, it is exhausting. And what's happening right now is that women now see it as a norm. So it's exhausting, and it's a lot of internal drama, but we don't even see anything wrong with it. It's just become a habitual response, and our body are automatically in this sort of stress mode, because when you compete and you compare and you're constantly earning your worth and hustling and judging, all that negative energy goes into your body and changes your biochemistry. And then all of a sudden, we're a mess, we're in anxiety, and we can't function. You have to see the connection here, because our thoughts are directly connected to how we show up. Our thoughts changes our physical body. Our thought determines so much our overall health. And so what we need to do is really simple. We need to stop it. We need to get rid of comparison, competition, and judgment, and it is possible. I do not buy into the fact that in our DNA is this comparison, competition. I think it's been wired that way. And it's been wired that way because the moment you're 2-3 years old, in our current culture, everybody's competing and comparing. There is not a sense of collaboration. If your average school system, you're taught to what? Fight for that A, fight for the B. There's no collaborative work that's instilled from the very moment we were 2 or 3 or 4. Our system is not built in for collaboration. It's built in for competition. You see it in sports, and then you start to see it in those, the magazines and social media, how many likes you have, how many friends you have. And now, neurologically, based on repetition, our minds create neural pathways. Those neural pathways becomes a belief system. Now, the comparison and competition was somehow wired into our system based on our consistent and repeated experience of how we were raised, right? If you were raised in a household where comparison and competition was sort of a norm, you compete with your siblings, and then you do it in school, all of this has become so habitual that all of a sudden you're a grown adult woman and you don't even realizing you're comparing, competing, and judging. And you don't know why you feel like you're a mess. You don't know why you're in anxiety. Well, that's why. Okay? It is a big part of us not seeing our worth when we do not see other women's worth. And we clearly do not see other women's worth when we're constantly judging them, okay? And if you are that woman, we can change it. We can wire it through neuroplasticity, replace all bad wirings that is now really costing you a peaceful life. And that's really the price tag, ladies, of comparison and competition, is peace. There's no peace when you're constantly competing against other women and judging and being cynical. It's a mental gymnastic. It is exhausting. So what do we need to do to really replace it? We need to replace that habit. First of all, you need to be aware that it's happening. Every single time you're judging other women, you're comparing, you're competing, I want you to start to observe your words and your thoughts. When you start to walk in the room, and I see this all the time, is that women don't even know they're looking at you up and down. You walk in the room and they're sizing what you're wearing and they're looking at your shoes, and it's so habitual that they don't even know they're doing it. It's habit. It's like driving. You don't really think of what to do because you've been driving for the last 20 years. It's so habitual. Well, so is judging. And so we first, before we can change anything, we must first become aware of what we need to change. You cannot escape a prison unless you don't know you're in one. That's from Vernon Howard. And so you need to know when these things come up. And then you start to have that elevated emotion. You start to sort of feel like you're looking around the room, and it automatically makes you feel insecure. Because the truth is that there's always going to be somebody better than us, right? In terms of our measurement of what's better than us. Our value, ladies, is irreplaceable. It's objective. It never changes based on what we look and what we think. It's always objective, but it's always subject to what we believe our value is, right? Our worth is subjective to how we believe we are worthy of. And so comparison and competition puts our worth always in the subjective mode, okay? So you need to replace that and make your worth objective by doing the same thing and measuring other women as valuable and objectively good. So the second thing you need to do is you need to create a habit to replace old habitual beliefs of judging and comparison. We're gonna put those old wirings, literally, if you look at your brain, it's filled with 100 billion neurons. We're gonna put those old habits into atrophy. Just like if you don't use, your arm, it gets weak, right? It actually doesn't, it's not mobile anymore. So we're gonna immobilize all those old wirings and we're gonna replace it. So the habit that I want you to do is that every single woman that you see, you're gonna compliment them in your head. You're gonna find something good and you're going to force yourself to a new habit and bless and compliment every single woman that you see to replace old wirings. And therefore, you need to make sure that you're aware it's happening, okay? But ladies, the greatest reward when you're here celebrating every woman is freedom. And I remember when I was in college, the first homework I had when I was working with my mentor was, January, I can't even begin to work with you and help you become the woman that you want to be unless we get rid of comparison and competition, because you're always going to be looking at everyone else and there's no freedom in that. So my first homework was to observe and look at every woman that I felt threatened in my campus. I was a freshman in college, and write them down. I remember there was about 11 women in that list, and I had to write all of them down, and I had to compliment them every single time I saw them in my head. I didn't have to talk to them. I had to compliment them in my head. And it was a 6-month process where she literally would wire new concepts in my head. And then the next step I had to do was I had to observe the behaviors that I admired about them. I had to force myself to see the good. And so I remember writing all their good qualities in this little piece of paper. I still have it. And the third part was I had to emulate them. That was my homework. And I will tell you that it completely rewired and got rid of competition, comparison, and judgment in my brain. It was in my brain. It was wired in there. And that's where the freedom came. And that's where I was able to walk in the room. I only saw all the good in women, and that continued and continues. I am protecting that same state. And it's so important to protect that state, because the moment you get in this place of comparison and competition, you are robbed of your peace of mind. And there's no greater price tag, ladies, than your peace. Without peace, you can't really function as an optimal human being. You can't even bring your light to the world. You can't be a good mom, you can't be a good friend, you can't be a good wife, you can't be a good girlfriend. So you want to protect that peace of mind. And it begins with you protecting your mind and the way you see other women's value. And you want to be the woman that protects other women's value, defends it, not contribute to the hurt that's going on today. So go out there, get rid of comparison and competition, and give yourself the gift of peace and freedom. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel, JanuaryDonovan.com. You can follow me on Instagram at JanuaryDonovan, and go to our website at JanuaryDonovan.com, where you can get our weekly script training to master our worth. You can also follow me on Facebook. And really, ladies, let's do this together. Share this with a friend, and let's get women to master our worth together.